Mjbizcon 2022 with a bad knee, so I'm twisting and turning in awkward ways. But we have had quite a show, incredible guest list, and we're just on Wednesday, and it's like a cherry on top of a perfect banana split. We have Bob Hoban in the house, and my friend from Ispire.
What's up, guys? I'm Ethan.
Ethan from Ispire, who's the co-host. Ispire has generously let us impose our little booth here on their 20 by 20, but they've also given us Ethan and Jeff and Luna and Adam to co-host podcasts. So be prepared for some questions from left field.
Interrogation. Let's go.
But no, we got Bob Hoban. He can handle anything. He is the godfather, one of the godfathers. I always think about that because I worry how many children I have out there. Sorry. So one of the godfathers of the cannabis industry. I'm not a father of the cannabis industry. How are you doing, Bob?
I'm doing great. It's good to be here. It's good to see you. And as always, you bring the party, you bring the life. So it's good.
What is happening today and last night? Tell us about Mjbizcon, then we'll get a little about to you. What do you see? What do you feel?
I tell you what, it's where I thought there would be a lot more worse attitudes. I think people are generally upbeat, despite the fact that we are in one of the toughest economic challenges we've seen in this commercial industry in the U.S. And people are upbeat. I think that there's optimism. There's this hope to push through. And believe it or not, there's a whole lot of money floating around. It's just not coming in terms of equity. It's coming in terms of debt financing. And those are high numbers, but I think it's a good sign for the industry. It's got to work these things out like any industry does.
What other, people rely on you to be like one of the, what's like a soothsayer, fortune teller, medicine man? I don't know.
He's got the 8 ball, bro.
The 8 ball. There you go. We need an 8 ball. I'll order an 8 ball. I love that.
Make it 2.
we do have Woodstock.
These guys are going to need a lawyer.
I forgot to introduce Woodstock and Yoda. Speaking of 8 balls, we got Woodstock, soul of MITA, and Yoda, which is the wisdom of MITA. Sorry, guys, forgot to introduce you. So tell us, what are other people asking you? They walk up to you and they say, Bob, what are they saying?
Where can I find money? What's happening internationally? What about all of this hemp-derived intoxicating products? What is that? And by the way, it's not a popular topic in this forum because everyone's so focused on the dispensary system. But Dimitri, this is an interesting thing that's happening right now. We see all this hemp-derived products in the marketplace. And yes, some of it's made in a bathtub and that should make us all worry, right? But there's others, substantially others, that are not. There was a large investment in the company Can. We saw that they're using hemp-derived Delta-9 and they're selling these beverages in gas stations, over the counter in multiple states across the country. I would suggest to you that this is a whole other user of cannabis that we're not tapped into. When you're selling high-test marijuana, whether that's flower, whether that's vape pens, whether that's dabs, concentrates, whatever it might be, that's to deliver a particular feeling that's more intense than I think what a brand new population of cannabis users want. They don't want the paranoia. They want something that's more akin to a relaxing glass of wine, not to go from 0 to stoned in 2 seconds, for lack of a better way to put it. So it opens up a whole other marketplace.
What do you think about that?
Well, to be quite frank, we started off as a THC regular cannabis oil company with maybe some CBD aspirations. And then through the COVID, we realized that there's a whole thing, Delta-8, that was, really early on a couple of years ago had gotten full traction by this point. And all the states that aren't doing medical or rec cannabis, like Texas, is coming through with a Delta-8.
It's red state weed. It's red state weed.
It's weird. People want. They're voting with their dollars. They're all voting Delta-8, Delta-8, and all these other states. So
yes,
I'm going to buy that. RedStateWeed.com. So, real quickly, we got some topics to talk about. We're going to talk about hot topics, Biden, international stuff. Bob Hoban's an absolute expert. You're lucky to be hearing from him for 15, 30 minutes. But real quickly, I want to explain who you are and where you came from. Give us a 5-minute synopsis of your journey into cannabis.
So I'm a cannabis lawyer. I've been a cannabis lawyer solely for 13 years now. What does that mean? It means I built a law firm called the Hoban Law Group. I sold that firm in 2021. I built it up to 52 lawyers all around the world with different legal specialties to just service the cannabis industry because lawyers wouldn't service the industry. And been around the block. I've served as an interim executive for multiple clients over the years, multinational clients, and I've served as a consultant in many capacities. One of the most fun things I get to do is work on legislation all around the world, and that's a hoot because you've seen it firsthand. You come from the future when you kind of experience experiences that we've had in our states.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
Legislation all around the world. Since we have you here, this is going to be released next week. What countries are hot?
Well, I'm looking at the Czech Republic is actually it's a latecomer to the party in a certain respect, but the Czech Republic is making moves, and they're making moves very quickly because there is a notion out there that Germany is not going to actually enact their program. They're going to get it to the finish line, and then they're going to make a very specific request of the United Nations, and the United Nations will not do anything with that, or if they do, it's going to take years. So then you have these other countries that maybe are a little bit more willing to step out of line and push this thing forward. But whatever happens, whether it's Germany, whether it's a little country like Andorra, another place we're working on, small but sets a model for what could be akin to an adult use marketplace across Europe. Andorra, a little country in the Pyrenees Mountains.
Bro, he's got frequent flyers.
No, I need to hang out with him. Okay, sorry, my bad, but Andorra's happening.
But these models will sweep across Western Europe, because here's the interesting thing. In the U.S., we're starting to experiment with consumption clubs. What does that even mean, right? We've had dispensaries, so we've had domestic distribution. The U.S. doesn't necessarily participate in the global side of things. The rest of the countries around the world, they lack on domestic distribution. They lack of regulated consumption spaces, but they engage in international commerce. So it is this weird thing where everything's upside down on one side of the ocean and the other, and I think that's going to shift, get shaken up pretty dramatically sometime very soon, where we see a supply chain begin to develop that's consistent, that's cogent, and that works between multiple countries with the same baseline rules for import and export.
So we got a lot to get through, but just real quickly, obviously you are the international expert. You developed a whole organization around this, correct?
We did. We have the Global Cannabis Network Collective, the GCNC.
GCNC, what's the website for that?
It's, I believe it, just Google GCNC. I think it's gcnc.com.
Okay.
It's owned by Gateway Proven Strategies. It's a networking group that is global in scope, and it's real players that are actually operating real businesses, and we evaluate them and bring them in so that if you're going to go to country X or Y or Z, you can get connected right away with people that are really doing things. And wade through some of the stuff that you and I have seen a million times, all the BS.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Like his friends from Colombia over there who have a farm just north of Bogota. Okay, that's cool. So we know this gives people a direction to head in. If they're interested in international stuff, they can look up the organization, they can find you through that. Yeah. It's very important. Anyone who isn't paying attention to international activities doesn't have a 10, 20-year plan.
I agree.
I don't know how investors deal with this uncertainty, but it is what it is.
You know, speaking of which, so question for you. So as Mexico has made vaping illegal, are you involved in any of those general talks about how that might look like in that landscape? Because you see them for sale at every bodega in Mexico, but you know,
the gray market's huge in Mexico.
The gray market's huge in Mexico. It's huge in Colombia. It's huge in Southeast Asia now with their announcement. Somehow, when a country takes some sort of public position on legalizing cannabis, everybody goes there with the gray market products. And I understand that. You know, we help navigate that as lawyers. But at the end of the day, how long are those products going to be on the shelf, right? But no, there's exciting things happening all over the world. You just got to pay attention. But to your point, I see these guys, and they say, I wouldn't invest in an international operation. I wouldn't invest in an operation in Latin America. It's unstable there. It's corrupt there.
Right? Look at this.
This is crazy talk. In this day and age, when it is a global marketplace, yes, there are challenges. Yes, some countries are easier to work in than others. Yes, there's corruption. Yes, there's government officials that you need to work with. But if you do it in this industry, all the eyes are on what's happening in cannabis. So it tends to be a little bit cleaner than other international business issues I've been involved in outside of cannabis, believe it or not.
There's no corruption in the United States cannabis.
No.
All right. So, Clark Hill, did we get to where you're at now with Clark Hill?
Yeah, so I joined Clark Hill in July of 2021. It's been a really good addition. I joined their platform. It's a firm with 700 lawyers. They're international in scope, and I co-lead its cannabis industry group. And we very quickly brought ourselves into the top tier among AM law firms, and it's fun. It's fun. It's the most fun you can have being a lawyer. I'll tell you that.
I think I want to dance the music of your Rolodex. You know, and his Rolodex must be like, he's got presidents of countries calling him. What do I do about this, Bob? Fly me out to Andorra, I'll tell you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just incredible. So real quickly, since we have you here, let's talk about some of the hot topics. We got a little bit of an international update. You know, you talk about Czechoslovakia, maybe there's another country you want to talk about, but people can go to the website to learn more and to network with a group that knows more. But let's talk a little bit about hemp-derived products.
Yeah.
Because this is a huge theme, and I know that legislation is coming in Arizona. I'll tell you about that in a second. But what do you think of this what's going to happen in the future? Because it's a whole nother market.
It's not regulated, so the question is it safe? That's the biggest question, and that's really the one what we need to answer, right? So if you're deriving something from hemp, if you're going to make an HHC product or something that requires very specific chemistry, what if you mess that up? What if you don't know what you're doing and you're actually producing something that is a poison, something that's clearly not just not safe, but actually can harm people by consuming it? So those are the concerns that I have, and the states are wrestling with the issue right now. So we got the Farm Bill going to be renewed upcoming here next year. That will at least entertain a debate about whether the federal government wants to rein in the definition of hemp to contemplate these things. It also begs the question, is the FDA going to actually do their job, start regulating cannabinoids as they were cued to do beginning as early as 2014 and then 2018? And then, you know, at the end of the day, is this a different trend of products derived from hemp that produce intoxicating effects? Is that the wave of the future? Is that a whole new consumer base that we're not tapped into yet? I think those are big questions that need answers, but it comes down to regulation, not over-regulation, just safety. Consumers and the public policy people need to understand that what's being produced and what's sold is safe and consistent, and if it's not, it gives everybody a bad name.
You know, I'm curious what's going to happen when the head of the FDA calls Bob and say, what do we do about this?
They'll be on that island.
Yeah,
so.
He'll be in Andorra. And maybe Biden will call. Does Biden have a commission on cannabis?
He'll be sitting by that point.
But Biden's got advisors on the cannabis industry, but Biden's not a big fan.
But you're not one of them?
No.
I'm disappointed in Biden already.
Interestingly enough, I did.
He lost my vote.
When Trump was elected, I tendered a policy called "Make America Hemp Again" to his transition team, and had some meetings on there. And of course, COVID happened promptly thereafter, so it was lost in the shuffle. But I always thought, I'm neither Republican nor Democrat, so I don't take a side, but I've always thought that this is more of a Republican issue. This is more of a states' rights, personal freedoms, individual freedoms, and economy argument, and that's a Republican argument. And the Democrats have not been strong on public policy surrounding cannabis just about anywhere.
You know what, just real quickly, I don't mean to get too political, but I think that if Republicans talked about amongst themselves about the importance of individual liberty and individual choice, and didn't let the media shape the perception of the Republicans, you could get the Republicans to be a lot more concerned about the very fundamental individualistic nature, self-determined nature of the party principles that kind of I think a lot of people used to sign up for in the 80s and stuff.
But it comes down to the reefer madness. These people that don't know it, I think they really, really believe that this is the devil's lettuce, that this plant is a bad scourge on society. I think they believe that. I don't think that they have studied it, because if they did, they would believe something different. But I think they really believe it.
We got that from the left, the right, the doctors, the medical, the media, the Democrats, the Republicans. I mean, it was the 80s and 90s when I was growing up. It was like a few normal activists, Keith Stroop, Nathan Edelman, some other guys, probably friends of yours, who were like the ones advocating to change things.
Yep, and then you had, just say no on top of it all. So the messages we're sending to people. Interestingly enough, there's a large consulting firm that I talked to, and they took part in publicly in the opioid crisis. They fashioned the strategy for Purdue Pharma, and this is all in the news. So that company was looking at doing a cannabis consultancy. And when the news about their involvement in the opioid crisis came out, my suggestion was we'll use this as an opportunity to right the wrongs, to talk about plant-based medicine, to talk about the fact that cannabis is not a gateway drug, it's rather a getaway drug, or a drug that helps people get off of substances. And that was not something that was even remotely understood or, kosher in terms of how they were going to view things from a public perception standpoint. So there's still so much education to bring to the table. I was at a baking conference here in Vegas, a baking conference, bakers. They wanted to learn about how to put products into breads and things that they make. So there was a cannabis pavilion. People would actively skirt the perimeter of the cannabis pavilion because they didn't want to be seen near the cannabis pavilion. This was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
This is still mainstream America, unfortunately, and I think people still have that mentality.
Where was the conference?
It was in Vegas. It was here. It was in the convention center. What are the halls?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I think it's wild.
Yeah. It's called the IBIE. So
It's just so commonplace. No, it's just ridiculous. Well, I know you have an event tonight at 6, so we got to get you going here.
Sure.
That's actually an hour ahead. It's actually 4:47, but you're going to need some time to get over there. Any other closing thoughts?
Yeah,
Anything?
tell us about your event tonight.
Well, so the event tonight is the GCNC C-Suite Mixer. So it's the Global Cannabis Network Collective. There'll be companies and operators from all over the world. There's an event in the Arts District tonight, and then tomorrow night, the law firm Clark Hill will be holding a happy hour over at the Cosmopolitan. And we'll look forward to getting people together for a couple hours, networking, making some connections, and then dispersing into the night. God knows where everybody ends up.
Well, we
Hopefully here tomorrow.
really appreciate your leadership, your advocacy, your professionalism, your talented skills, and just your friendship and the fun that you are everywhere you go. I guess it's just, maybe that's just the cannabis industry. Maybe it's
I feel the same about you, my friend. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for being here.
And great to see you again, man. Great job at Berlin, by the way. It was a great party and a great event.
Oh, thanks, man. That was awesome.
Oh, that was right.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, you were there.
Yeah.
Are we going to do it again this year?
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
do it. Berlin,
Go.
2023.
Thanks, guys.
Peace.
That's a
Good job.